Hello. I am here to talk to you today about fear. When you're in sales or not in sales, but specifically sales, fear can drive the bus. Fear is why lots of people get out of sales. Fear is why lots of people get into sales and then dip out of sales. Fear is one of a very big part of sales. You're always afraid you're going to lose your job. You're always afraid that the next sale isn't going to close and your company's going to look at you and go, we don't need people like you. That's at least how I roll. I know lots of other people in sales that feel the same way. They're very concerned about their jobs every day. They're very concerned about if they are or are not going to sell something and what that means and how long their job is secure for. I mean, at this point in the world, it's pretty easy to get fired and it's pretty easy to lose your job to no fault of your own. However, in sales, there's specifically, it's kind of in the job description that, you could lose your job for no reason. So, or for any reason. So, anyway, beyond sales, fear has driven my life because I grew up in an old school house where fear was how that we were parented. It's very normal. I mean, I don't know if I had kids if I wouldn't be doing the same thing because it worked like a charm. So, no shame or anything. That's just how I was raised. And that fear kind of was ingrained in me and it sat and got fixated in there. So I approached, not just because of that, but I ended up approaching my life based out of fear. I was afraid of being seen. I was afraid of getting it wrong. I was afraid of looking stupid. A lot of that was, the way I was raised, but I would say more so than anything, it was because I didn't have an identity that felt comfortable for me. I didn't have self-worth or confidence or whatever you want to call it. It was something that I lacked my entire life. And I lived in that scarcity and lack mindset. And the main reason was because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel entitled to a good life, to having anything stick around. So when I got into sales, that fear mindset was like, oh, this is breeding ground. Let's go. Everything is unstable here. You never know if you're going to close a client until they give you the check. And even then, sometimes the check bounces or the payment doesn't go through, and you're like, seriously? So, yeah, fear is a big part of being in sales. So it was natural for me to be attracted to that because it was just what I was used to and what I was comfortable with. It was great for me to get into for that reason because it has helped me figure it out, identify, and work through a lot of that fear and a lot of that chaos that is not good. It's not a good way for your nervous system to live. It's not a quiet life. It's certainly not safe. And I actually talk about safety later in the week, but for now, I just want to talk to you about what it is that feels good and doesn't feel good in fear. Fear feels really good if you're used to it. Your nervous system, your ego, parts of your brain live on things that are familiar. So if you're comfortable not having any idea where you're going to get your paycheck or how you're going to pay a bill or whatever, then your brain and your nervous system's like, we know this. This is how we're good. It's why people who win the lottery lose money. It's why addicts go back to being addicts frequently because they get how to do that life. It's not obviously not good for them. Obviously losing all your money is bad, but if you're used to not having it, or if you're used to living in a certain way, if you're used to your nervous system feeling a certain way or feeling familiar, that's how you're going to keep doing things. So fear led me to repeating patterns, repeating experiences with different people, with different jobs, with different experiences in life, just how I made decisions. So I was absolutely terrified to show up. And so if I wasn't showing up, no one could make fun of me, no one could judge me, I couldn't fail, I couldn't succeed either because I didn't know what that was going to look like and I didn't know if I was even qualified to succeed. So lots of shit that I went through in my 10 years in sales that was magnificent for me to do. Really hard, like really hard, and a lot of pain, a lot of chaos, a lot of frustration, a lot of embarrassment and shame. But it was necessary for me to get out of that in order for me to get into feeling worthy, into making quality decisions, into being successful and being comfortable in that area. There's still fear, like, I don't know, I've been in my job for 2 weeks or 2 years, and this is all I've done, or I've only done this much, or I've done a lot, but is it enough? I mean, that's just what sales is. So it's a great place for me to learn how to regulate my nervous system and just figure out how to do life with or without the safety and security of a paycheck or closing a client or whatever. And fear has a way of affecting us in ways that we don't even know. Like, when you're, like I was saying before, you're used to something and it's not good for you. Like, let's say you're used to dating, dipshits or bad people. And, that's just all you know. And they look good in the beginning, they're all shiny and new. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, this is what I like, but really it's a facade because the same type of person I keep dating and the same type of experiences keep happening throughout this experience, throughout the dating relationship. And they look good in the beginning and then they gradually just start pulling layer after layer off until I realize I'm with the same person. They're just different hair color, different height, different age, whatever. So fear has led you to that. Fear has led you away from good opportunities. Fear has led you into good opportunities as a place for you to make a different decision. I a few years ago decided to switch from all commission job to a salary job. And with those, there's a lot of expectations, a lot of fingers in the pie, if you will, a lot of people telling you what to do and how to do it and where to do it and how often you need to do it and what the outcome needs to be and how often that outcome needs to show up. And that's really intimidating, especially when there's, a pay level that you've never experienced before. And having that pay level also comes with fear. What if it goes away? What if I prove that I'm not good enough? There's no way for me to recover from getting to this level and then having it taken away from me because I didn't succeed. Like that is its own mind fuck. It really, really is. And the fear that comes with that can paralyze you into just not doing anything because you're like, well, if I do this, this might be successful and I also might fail. So I'm just going to sit here in this I'm not doing anything freeze mode. Fear is, fear is tricky. You don't even know you're in fear half the time. But I definitely took that bull by the horns, grabbed my lady balls, and I went into that job and I sucked for a little bit. I was so terrified of doing well. Uh, Yes, but I was very terrified of doing well. But I was more terrified of failing because I had made financial decisions based on this job. I had gone out on my own as far as where I was living and what I was doing and how I was paying for things, and there was no cushion. There wasn't anybody that would have to pay for me or offer to pay for me. Like it was just me. And so there was a lot riding on it. So on one hand, yeah, I was absolutely terrified to be successful because I didn't know what that looked like. But I was more terrified of losing my house, losing my car, losing my job, losing my money, I put stuff on credit cards. Like, I don't know. I had to. I had to put stuff on credit cards or I would be sleeping on the ground, which, maybe that would have been the better decision. I don't know. I sure do love my bed, though. I'm going to be real honest. And it's paid off now. But back then, I was like, I, I don't know. I waited. Okay, so here it is. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I was in this mode, right? I kept having these like panicky, like anxiety things. And I remember I was standing in my kitchen one day and I kept looking at my back door and I kept thinking, I keep having the same feeling. Like, what is this? And I finally realized it was about 3 months into me owning my house. And I kept looking at the back door like I was expecting something. I was expecting someone to come through the door, but there was no one to come through the door. So I was like, what is that? And finally, after a while, it dawned on me that I was expecting someone to knock on my door, walk through the door with their keys, proof of ownership, that I had somehow mistakenly gotten ownership of this house. There was a mistake. This isn't yours. You have to get out. Like now. And it was such a major panic that I had spent the first 3 months of owning my home expecting someone to come and take it away. There's lots of reasons for that you may have heard in some of my other videos that I'll talk about more in the future, but I literally thought that someone was going to come in and take my house away from me. You want to talk about fear. Like, if you've ever gotten evicted or not been sure where you were going to live or had any version of uncertainty about your home life, you understand the panic that comes with that. I mean, I'm sure we all have a friend we could stay on their couch or a mom or whatever, but even if you know you have a security blanket, the fear and panic and embarrassment and frustration and just anger that would come with having something like that taken away from you, that is like the biggest part of our security is being able to leave the public life and go to a private space. If it's an apartment, if it's your bedroom, if it's the basement, like whatever it is, you have a spot that is just yours. And when someone takes that away, or when the fear of having that taken away comes along, there's just nothing like that. The safety and security that would be ripped away in that moment is mm-mm. So I kept thinking, someone's going to come take my house away from me. There's been a mistake. I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough for this. You've only had this job for a short period of time. You don't deserve to have this kind of safety and security. You don't deserve to have a house. You're not good enough for this. You need to be living in an apartment. You need to be living in a shit show like you're used to living in. You used to live in shit apartments with shitty roommates and roaches and like all of this crap that happened to me in my past life. And, not all was bad, but there was a lot of bad situations regarding my home life when I was trying to go out on my own. And, I think it's kind of a rite of passage. You live in shitty apartments you can hear everything in the next apartment, or there's rats or mice or roaches or whatever. I mean, it's just kind of you move to the big city, you make some mistakes, you live in shitty apartments, it's a rite of passage. But after a while, those rites of passage turn into a lifestyle and a way of living and what you're used to and comfortable with. And I did that for way too long. And that fear that came from going out on my own after that, I didn't think I could handle it. I didn't think I was worthy of it. I didn't think there was really a place for me in that kind of life. And so I kept looking outside of myself to find that. And I never did. I never did until I took this big job with the big paycheck. And, in retrospect, in this day and age, it's really not that much money. It was good money. It's not bad money, but it's not that good of money. But for me, it was doubling my income, which is that's a lot of money when you go from 20 to 40 or 40 to 80 or 80 to, 160 or whatever your number is that you're comfortable in and you double it. You didn't just get a $5,000 raise, you got a double raise. That's what I did. It was such a huge quantum leap for myself that I was like, hmm, I don't know if I'm worthy of this. I don't know if this is the right decision for me. But I did it anyway. There were extenuating circumstances that I needed to make money. I needed to create a life for myself that did not involve other people. So I made decisions based on that, all with massive amount of fear. You want to talk about fear. I was quantum leaping in my business. I was quantum leaping in my mindset. I was quantum leaping energetically in my mind, in my heart. I was ripping off an arm by leaving someone that I was madly in love with. I was just like all of these things that I was doing. I was removing things that parts of myself that I had just subsisted in, living like a piece of shit all of my life without like really doing anything good for the world, good for myself, good for people around me. Even though I was trying, I was not succeeding. I didn't have the tools. It is what it is. Now I was gradually getting tools to do that. I was gradually believing in myself a little bit. And when I didn't believe in myself, I just took the leap off the cliff and said, you know what? If I fall, I fall. There's this past, this life that I've been living, this life that sucks. I'm all good. If I fall off a cliff, it can't be any worse than what I'm already doing. And you know what? It wasn't. Every time I jumped off a cliff, there was a safe landing. And so it gave me the power to keep facing fear, facing decisions I'd never made before, to keep going, to keep trying. And you know what? I did. I failed a lot. I lost clients. I did things that didn't make sense, that didn't do well. I put too much money on credit cards. I was like, oh my God, I still have my job and I have like three empty rooms. I need to go get furniture. Or I lost 40 pounds. I look like I'm wearing my mom's clothes when I'm going out trying to get big deals. I have a piece of shit 15-year-old Nissan that looks like shit and smells like shit. So, I need to upgrade that. I'm asking people for hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars for their business, and they're trying to trust it to someone that looks like they just got out of college with clothes that don't fit them, shoes that are all scuffed up, and gray hair coming out in spots. That's because it hasn't been cut in a long time, and a piece of shit car that looks like I just got out of high school. So I'm just saying, I did a lot of things that were beneficial and also a little risky. And some of them maybe not smart, and some of them, whatever, lesson learned. You know what I mean? So fear was at play, whether I did it or didn't do it. There was fear, massive amount of fear. I was going through a lifetime of eradicating identities of you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you don't belong in that type of life. That's not for someone like you. That's for people that went to college. That's for people that did this longer. That's for people that know more than you. That's people that are taller or shorter or prettier or older or younger. Like whatever it was, I wasn't the right fit. Even if I was, I had to talk myself out of those mindsets that was keeping me small, keeping me safe in a life that sucked. So, if you're facing any kind of decision that has fear involved in it, and if it's a leap of any kind, fear is just automatically going to be part of it. But as I'm going to talk about later in the week, there's no such thing as safety and security, at least not to the degree that we put on it. And that was also a very hard lesson for me to learn. So I hope this was helpful. I'm probably going to talk about this more because it was so massive. It kept me so small throughout my entire life. It kept me from lots of dreams and lots of things that I really wish I would have accomplished or wish I would have tried. And you know what? There's no mistakes in life. You're where you're meant to be. But, we all have those regrets. We all look back and say, "Ugh, what a shit show that was." Or, boy, I really wish I would have done this or wish I would have done that. And you know what? Now I am doing it. So I'm recreating some of those opportunities in different paths and different types of work or different types of people. And I'm going for it. I'm not winning everything. I suck at lots of things. I started a business called Upskill Developmental. I didn't know the first thing about internet marketing or coaching or development or how to make a reel or how to do YouTube. And here I am sitting on YouTube making a video. I don't know if people are watching it. You tell me if I suck. I probably do. I'm probably all over the place. I don't have notes for this shit. I just pick a word and talk about it in reference to my life, in reference to my job, in reference to what I've experienced and what I want to experience. And if I hope you vibe. If you don't watch me. I'm glad you're here though, and if you have any questions, if you have anything that you want me to talk about or need or whatever, I'll be in the comments commenting and talking to everybody. And I just want to thank you for listening and for being here. And I'm telling you, if you have fear, just go for it. If it fails, what's the worst that can happen? Um, it's already happened to me. I can promise you the worst thing that you can think of, I've been through a couple of different ways, a couple of different times, and I'm still standing. I still have a smile on my face most days. And when I don't, I figure it out. Fear is a motherfucker, and you need to show it who's boss. And you've got what it takes. You can do anything you put your mind to. And if you need help with that, I'm here for you. I hope you have a fantastic day and sending you love.